Welcome everyone. Today we are diving into a financial structure that's, well, it's so elegant, so refined, you can really only grasp it through the lens of coastal dining and some very expensive wine. You see, this isn't just a deal, it's a courtship.
And just so we're all on the same page, Barnaby, this is about selling a mobile home park, right? I just want to make sure we haven't accidentally stumbled into a romance novel explainer here.
Precisely, Judy, but the scene must be said. Just imagine, a bottle of, say, $375 Chardonnay just breathing beside a perfectly seared ahi tuna steak, and sitting across the table from you is your buyer. But he's not there to pressure you, no, he's there to listen.
Okay, I'm imagining it. It's a lovely picture, for sure. But what on earth does a fancy dinner have to do with the actual terms of selling a property? Because last I checked, you can't pay a mortgage with ahi tuna.
But Judy, that is the entire point. The goal here is to completely reframe the dynamic, so it stops being a negotiation and becomes a conversation. We're getting away from that brutish zero-sum game of traditional deals, we're moving into a realm of mutual respect, of alignment. Think of it as the deal-making equivalent of pulling out someone's chair and saying, "After you."
The Architecture of Alignment. Wow, that sounds like the title of one of your books, Barnaby. Okay, fine. Let's get into the architecture. Enough of the poetry for a minute. How does this whole thing actually work? What are the mechanics behind the curtain?
Well, in its essence, it is a masterpiece of financial engineering. It's called the Woodbridge hybrid method. The seller simply rolls a portion of their equity into the buyer's new company, and in doing so, they become a partner in the deal's future success. They are no longer opponents across a battlefield, they are collaborators.
Right. Let me translate that for everybody who doesn't speak Barnaby. So, this is basically a kind of seller financing, but with a twist. You're also getting a piece of the future profits. The seller agrees to put in, let's say, 20% of the deal's value, but they do it in the form of their own equity. Then the buyer comes in and brings the other 80% with either cash or a loan. It's as simple as that. And just like that, you're partners.
And that partnership, that's where the real story is. So let's run the numbers. Because a deal that sounds good over wine has to look even better on a spreadsheet. This is the part where we move from the Chardonnay to the cash flow.
Okay, let's use the example from our source material here. The park sells for $800,000. The seller decides to keep $160,000 of their equity in the deal, that's their 20%. The buyer brings in the other $640,000. Now here's a key part. The seller also gets a 6% preferred return on their equity. Just think of that as a guaranteed annual dividend on their investment. It gets paid out before other profits are distributed. And when the property's value goes up, say to a projected $1.4 million, well, that's where things get really interesting.
So how does the seller get paid in the end? Well, first off, when the property is eventually sold or refinanced, they get their entire initial equity contribution back. That's the first $160,000 right off the top. Your initial stake is returned.
And second, after everyone gets their initial capital back, the profits get split up. The seller gets their 20% share of the appreciation, the increase in value, which in this scenario is another $120,000. This is their reward for staying in the deal, for believing in the park's future alongside the buyer.
And when you add in those preferred return payments they were collecting along the way, the total return becomes, well, frankly, it's spectacular. We're talking about a 28% annualized return. It's a true testament to the power of alignment over argument.
Which, brings me to my favorite part of this whole thing. This isn't just a win-win. That's amateur thinking. The Woodbridge hybrid is a win-win-win-win. It is a morally and financially superior structure.
Okay, Barnaby, let's break down these 4 wins. The seller wins with a great return. The buyer wins because they have to bring less cash to the table, which protects their cash flow. The park itself wins because it gets needed capital for improvements. And the relationship wins. I get it, but I have to ask, are all these wins created equal? Or is this just a really elegant sales pitch?
It's a fundamental psychological shift, Judy, don't you see? Where a traditional deal is so often a fight between opponents, this method is a toast between partners. It's all about moving away from tension and moving toward collaboration. You're reframing the entire exercise from a conflict to a creative partnership.
A toast or a tactic. I think that's the real question here at the end of the day. Is this a genuinely better way to do business, one that truly honors the seller's legacy?
Or is it a really clever tactic to get a deal done with less of your own cash up front?
So we're going to leave you with that question to think about. Is the Woodbridge hybrid method a true masterpiece in alignment, like Barnaby would have us all believe? Or is it just a very considerate, very clever contract? I guess the answer probably depends on which side of that fancy coastal dinner table you're sitting on.
The answer is clear. It's about creating a story where everyone can walk away smiling. It is, and it always will be, about alignment over argument, every single time.